All right, now.
And then as far as ending the show, what's the process for ending the show these days?
There is a button called Fade to Black.
Okay. I see it.
Twitch has accepted our stream. YouTube has accepted our stream. And come on, Facebook. Facebook has accepted our stream. Would you like me to send you the stream through Facebook Messenger so you can tell people you're on the air?
Yeah, if you could. I was just about to go on and look at Think Twice and share the. Yeah.
All right, I'll do that. Stand by. There it is. I get the link. And I send it to you. Check your Facebook Messenger. Here is the link. Do you also want the YouTube link?
Sure.
Okay. Here is the YouTube link. They are both in your Facebook Messenger.
Okay, let me.
Tell me when you're shared up.
Said there was an error. Something went wrong, but it's on my end, so.
All right. So there's nothing I have to worry about?
Hold on just 1 second. Let me. Okay, we're fine. It's Facebook technical issues.
Did you solve them?
What's that?
Did you solve them? Did you solve the technical issues?
No, just my Facebook just said there was an issue. Try posting again later.
Oh. Huh.
And then, yeah, when you try showing your... Is it on the Think Twice page?
Yeah, it's on the Think Twice Radio page. That's where I got the link from.
Okay, I'll just share it on...
Okay, if you want to do that, that's fine.
Okay, I think let's roll.
Okay, now. There is a timer at the top of the screen.
Okay.
When you see it says on the air, you are on the air, okay?
Okay. Hi, Think Twice radio audience. My name's Matt Austin, and welcome to Muckraker Punk Podcast. So, as you see above me, it's a depiction of, it's an artistic representation of my podcast. So, I am the terminated City of Buffalo Open Data and Analytics Project Coordinator, and I'm going to do this podcast a little bit about City Hall news. So, I think kind of part of my inspiration for doing this show is just how internet has really killed local media, and there's really no coverage of kind of some of the local political issues. Also, I've had some recent incidents that have given me insight of maybe I have something to say. So in today's show, it's going to be an hour long. We're going to talk about the Buffalo Common Council reorganizational meetings, some of the updates on the Common Council committee meetings this week, and then I'm going to do some posts on some auditing I've done of City Hall and some issues facing us. So let's get started. So again, this is me depiction of me being a muckraker punk. So it's the Night King in City Hall, and I photoshopped my face into it with the open data pie chart as his little emblem. So yeah, maybe that's that picture. It speaks for itself. So first I want to talk about the council reorganization. And also, if you'd like to follow along all of the content for this podcast, I have it posted on my webpage, buffalocomptroller.net/therapy. So buffalocomptroller.net/therapy is the URL. I have links to the content I'll kind of be reading, and also some of the videos if you want to watch the longer clips. Obviously, we have an hour, so I'm constrained on how much we can show. But if you want to see some of the videos, those are also hosted on buffalocomptroller.net/therapy. So the first thing that happened this week on New Year's Eve was the council reorganization. So with 2024 starting, the new Common Council members who were elected in last year's June primary primarily, and then officially elected in the November 2023 election, their term started on January 1st. So we had two new members of the Buffalo Common Council that were sworn in, Zanetta Everhart of Maston and Leah Halton Pope of Ellicott. So these are the two new council members. And kind of the mainstream press, the only thing they'll talk about is that we have two women on the council now, which is correct. We have two women on the council. We need more women on the council. It was 9-0 all male before, and having two female voices on the council is more than overdue, especially in 2023. But that's about as deep of analysis of these new candidates that the mainstream press will talk about. So Zanetta Everhart, she represents the Maston district. She's replacing the outgoing council member Ulysses Wingo. And so here's a post from her Twitter. She won Maston primary, and really she's well known for just being an advocate on the east side. I don't personally know her, but she also does kind of give me a little hope, and I think a lot of people outside of City Hall, that maybe she'll be an independent voice on the council, but she just started, so we really don't know kind of what her policy issues will be and how she'll progress on the council. The other new council member we have is Leah Halton Pope. So Leah Halton Pope is the new council member for the Ellicott district. So she is, and we'll get into later how she was some of the appointments she was appointed to on the Common Council reorganizational meeting, but she is the new Ellicott council member. She replaces Darius Pridgeon, who was the outgoing council president on the council. So two new voices, two new female voices, which are much needed. It's 7-2 split on gender, and I think it is definitely needed, but we'll see kind of how they progress as candidates and, kind of the new voices that they hear. Otherwise, all the new council members are the same. If you were following the election results, a lot of the council elections won like 90% to 10. So there really wasn't a lot of competition for these seats. A lot of them were picked up in June. They won the primary. So that was kind of the first thing that happened on January 1st was the swearing in of the 2 new council members. Then the next day on January 2nd, there was the reorganizational meeting. So now that there are new council members, outgoing president, the council needed to elect new leadership. So on the 2nd, they held their reorganizational meeting to kind of assign new leadership roles on the council as well as elect new committee chairs. So the new president that was elected is Christopher P. Scanlon of the South District. So he was elected the new council president. He is the current council member of the South District, so South Buffalo. He was voted not unanimously, although the clerk said it was unanimously, in an 8-1 vote, all 4. So he kind of ascended to this position. He was really critical in delivering the South District to the mayor's write-in campaign when he ran for mayor against India Walton. He's pretty closely aligned with the mayor. So he's the new council president. So Article 3-13 of the city charter, it gives the powers to the president of the council. So Article 3-13 of the city charter, it states that the president of the Common Council shall preside at all meetings of the Common Council and shall appoint all committees, regular or special, and may appoint and at pleasure remove a secretary. So the council president does have a lot of power as they kind of are kind of the head of the board of directors of the city of Buffalo. And also the charter states that if the mayor were to resign or he was not able to serve, the council president would become the interim mayor. So there was a lot of jockeying for this position leading up to this date because there had been some rumors that the mayor might leave either to go to Buff State, still might be leaving to run for potentially the open U.S. Congress seat. So there's a lot of internal jockeying to get the votes for this position. You had 4 council members jockeying, and then really it just came down to Chris Scanlon getting the votes for it. So, as I said, the vote was 8-1. So the only dissenting vote on Christopher P. Scanlon as the president was Council Member Rashid Wyatt of the University District, and I'll get in a little more about that vote. So it was 8-1, not unanimous, but almost there. So let's watch a clip of the reorganizational meeting on January 2nd, where Christopher P. Scanlon was appointed council president.
Item number 1 off of our agenda.
Item number 1, appoint council president.
Are there any nominations for council president? Councilmember Golombek.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I would like to place in the nomination Christopher P. Scanlon of the South District for appointment as the council president of the Buffalo Common Council, effective January 2nd, 2024.
Thank you. Are there any seconds?
Second.
Are there any other nominations? Councilmember
I'd
Wyatt.
like to nominate David A. Rivera.
Are there any seconds? Hearing none, I think we are, Madam Clerk, will you please call the roll for Councilmember Scanlon?
For clarification, point of clarification from law, we did not on a second nomination receive a second, so that nomination is no longer, will be 1 nomination on the floor for Christopher P. Scanlon.
Motion to close nomination.
Having received, motion to close has been accepted. Councilmember Scanlon has been nominated for council president. Please call the vote.
Council members, you can submit yes, or you can state the council member Christopher P. Scanlon in order once called. Councilmember Bowman.
Christopher P. Scanlon.
Councilmember Everhart.
Christopher P. Scanlon.
Councilmember Farrelletto.
Councilmember Scanlon.
Councilmember Gullumbeck.
Christopher P. Scanlon.
Councilmember Halton Pope.
Christopher P. Scanlon.
Councilmember Noakowski.
Christopher P. Scanlon.
Councilmember Rivera.
Christopher P. Scanlon.
Councilmember Scanlon.
Christopher P. Scanlon.
Councilmember Wyatt.
No.
It has passed with a 8-0, so Councilmember Christopher P. Scanlon has the votes for Council President.
Congratulations.
So as you can hear, Wyatt tried to nominate Rivera and nobody seconded it, so it was a unanimous vote. So let's skip ahead to some of Christopher B. Scanlon's comments after being elected council president.
I want to thank Chief City Court Judge Jahir Pridgen for administering the oath of office. When I debated who I wanted to have swear me in, it was a pretty quick choice. Obviously, the family name means a lot to these chambers and your position with City Court as well, so it was an easy choice for me, so thank you for being here today. We are also joined by our Erie County Democratic Chairman, Jeremy Zellner, is with us. I want to thank you for being here today. As well as the Mayor of Buffalo, Byron Brown. Thank you for being here, Mayor. Mayor, I want to thank you, and I see a number of the commissioners within your administration are here today. So I want to thank you all for being here today, and I look forward to continue to work with you, the council, as we move the city forward. So again, thank you for being here today. I've had the great fortune during my tenure on the council to serve with three men who had either served as council president while I was on the council or just before I arrived on the council. And each one of them taught me, and I learned from them, very separate and distinct values and skills that I've tried to utilize and I think have benefited me and I hope continue to benefit me as I move forward. The first of them was Rich Fontana. Rich taught me how to be a grassroots, boots on the ground, customer service council member, and there was no one better at it. We all know that there's no cause too large for us to take on, but Rich was always there to remind us there's also no job too small that we should be willing to take on. And whether you had to get out and cut some grass or shovel some snow, you had to get to it. So for that, I'm very grateful, Rich. Thank you. I also served with former Council President David Franziak, who taught me and all of us to respect and to legislate through our charter. He lectured us about it and told us to hold that document near and dear to us and let it be our guiding light in these chambers. And for that, I'm wiser. So I wanted to thank David. And finally,
I'll just say the charter as a guiding light statement is pretty ironic, given that the council regularly violates the charter when it's convenient to them, and then follows the charter when it's convenient to them. So the charter, they really interpreted it how they feel, and often ignore the councils. We'll get into that sooner, but let's go back to some of Scanlon's comments.
Darius Pridgen, a man who introduced me to a new level of community engagement. A man who preached independence and then walked the walk. And from that, I'm a much better public servant. So I want to thank Council President Pridgen. I can't go any further without thanking my incredible wife, Katie, who's giving me a stern look right now.
Okay, so let's move on. So that was the council president's speech. So Christopher P. Scanlon is the new council president. I personally am not optimistic that we'll see much change, but also open to maybe seeing how Scanlon and the council acts, but is really kind of status quo establishment is kind of the general consensus, not only mine, but as people that follow the council. So the next person that was promoted was majority leader. So Leah Halton Pope, the new council member from Ellicott, was nominated and appointed as the council majority leader. So some of you might ask, what is a majority leader? So according to Wikipedia, the internet's #1 source for truth and information, in U.S. politics, the majority leader is a partisan position in a legislative body. So really, they kind of act as the Democratic, at least in this context. The majority leader acts as like kind of the Democratic liaison working for the Democratic Party, because we have a council that is, we don't have a minority position. It's 9 Democrats on the council, so they really are the political person. And Leah Halton Pope worked for the current New York State Assembly member Crystal Peoples-Stokes, so she's well versed and positioned to kind of know the ins and outs of the Democratic machine. So let's watch a little brief clip from the vote of the majority leader.
I'd like to open recommendation or nominations for majority leader. Do I have a nomination? Councilmember Farrelletto.
For the position of majority leader, I would like to nominate Leah Halton Pope. In the almost 200-year history of the city of Buffalo, Leah will be the second woman to serve as majority leader and the first woman of color to serve as majority leader. Thank you.
Yep. Do I have a second? Councilmember Rivera.
Mr. Chairman, it's my honor and privilege to place or second the nomination of Leah Pope. I've had a brief experience with her in the last few weeks or maybe even months, but I had heard about her and her passion for her community, her legislative skills that many people know. I know that she will be an asset to this council. So I know it'll be in good hands. I'm looking forward to supporting the majority leader and the work that the majority leader has to do in making sure that everything flows smoothly on behalf of 9 different councilmatic districts, with each one having unique problems. So I second the nomination of Leah Pope. Thank you.
Any other nominations?
I second as well.
Seconded by Councilmember Glumbeck as well.
Hey, roll call.
Seeing no other nominations.
Motion to close
Motion
nominations.
to close.
So Halton Pope, the vote went in and she was approved anonymously. And, you know, that all sounded great and dandy. One thing that they won't talk about in the council is how Leah Halton Pope was essentially gerrymandered into the Ellicott District council seat. So according to her, Leah Halton Pope's bio on the council website, she lives in the Ellicott District with her husband, Mark Pope, who is the chief of staff to the former and outgoing council president, Darius Pridgeon. So Leah Halton Pope was a member of the Citizens Commission on Reapportionment. We might all remember how they gerrymandered the maps in 2022, but Leah Halton Pope was actually a member of the Citizens Commission. So conveniently, on May 18th, the city held a public hearing where one person showed up and thought that the current maps were great. And so that was May 18th. That was 4 days after the shooting at Tops on Jefferson. So one person showed up. They said it was great. The next day, the Citizens Reapportionment Committee had a meeting where the only new order of business was to go over public comments. And again, the public comment was that the map was great. And for some reason, according to the very thin minutes, it was discussed giving Fillmore 10 to the Ellicott District and giving Ellicott 24 to the Fillmore District. Why this was discussed or brought up, the minutes don't tell us. But my theory, and this is just a theory, was that this was done intentionally to conveniently Leah Halton Pope, whose residence at the time was at 500 Seneca Street, was in the Fillmore District. So this backroom swap was kind of, they gave the Fillmore 10, where Leah Halton Pope lived at the time, to the Ellicott District in exchange for Ellicott 24. That way, the Fillmore District could encompass more of downtown, and Councilmember Nowakowski could be the representative that kind of is the voice of the downtown corridor. And then conveniently, this would position Leah Halton Pope to run for Ellicott District. So in my point of view, this is just my personal opinion, it was kind of an example of the machine just kind of working the levers of power. And now, coincidentally, this candidate that they manipulated, the Citizens Reapportionment Committee, is now the majority leader and has taken a prominent leadership role in the council. So I'm open to seeing how the term progresses, but I think this kind of stains at least the just an example of the powers that be using the rules to kind of get their desired outcome. So that's the new majority leader. The other position that was appointed was the president pro tempore, Brian Bowman, the Lovejoy Council District member. So I didn't know what pro tempore meant, so I looked up again on Wikipedia, and pro tempore is a Latin phrase which best translates to "for the time being" in English. This phrase is often used to describe a person who acts as a locum tenens, or placeholder in the absence of a superior, such as the council president. So I interpret that as he's essentially the vice president of the Common Council. So if Christopher P. Scanlon, for some reason, couldn't serve as president, council member Brian Bowman would, I think, take the acting duties. Bowman seems like a nice enough council member. I don't think he makes any kind of controversial statements, or I think he kind of sticks to his district, which is Lovejoy. We'll skip ahead from that clip just to get onto some more business. So the next thing that they did at the reorganizational meeting was assign new committee chairs. So the Common Council every 2 weeks has their general body meeting, and then the other week is the committee meeting. So it goes general meeting, committees, general meeting, committees every other week. So the committees are really kind of where you do more nitty gritty stuff of theoretically talking about legislation and policy. So each committee got appointed a new committee chair. So the first two committee meetings that happened this week, so on the third, were the Civil Service and Legislation. So Civil Service, the new chair is Rashid Wyatt, who again was the only dissenting vote, and he was prior to this term he was the finance chair. So this is really it is a demotion. I think Councilmember Nowakowski posted on social media that he was promoted to finance chair. So the Civil Service Committee is scheduled. They meet from 9:45 to 10. So they scheduled 15-minute meetings twice a month, and we can get into a little bit of how the ramifications of that. But the Civil Service meeting was extremely short. It lasted under 2 minutes. So I think we can watch the entire Civil Service meeting right here.
Item number 1, appoint complaint clerk.
Motion to receive and file items number 1 through 5.
Motion to receive and file on the 5, seconded by Councilmember Rivera.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn, seconded by Councilmember Rivera.
So that was the city's civil service meeting. So we can get a little into later. I was terminated from the city of Buffalo, and I suspect that there was some civil service violations. And I think one of the reasons that there's so much is wrong with the civil service in the city is that the Common Council schedules intentionally 15-minute civil service meetings every other week. So the entire board of directors of the city, they spend a half an hour a month talking about civil service, and really all they do is, like you see, is these appointments came before us, approve, move on. So kind of intentionally done, and I need to research the history of civil service. I don't think it's always been that way, but civil service is by far the shortest meeting. It's always scheduled for 15 minutes, and a 2-minute meeting is not out of the ordinary. So I am optimistic. Rashid Wyatt, he's the civil service, and I think we don't have a Republican or a minority, a minority person, or a minority leader on the council. But I think Rashid Wyatt, we'll see, he has the potential to maybe be a dissenting or a critical of the voice, because we all know that we need that on the council right now. So that was the civil service meeting this week. in the civil service, the official definition according to the Common Council rules is it charges to the Civil Service Committee all matters relating to the creation and abolishment of officers and employees. So next was, and I'm not going in order, but I'm going in order of kind of as I see it importance this week. So the next meeting was the Committee on Legislation. So the council rules charge to the Committee on Legislation all matters relating to local laws, ordinances, and general legislation, except matters referable to the Committee on Civil Service. So this is really where policy, local laws, ordinances are supposed to be discussed. They're rarely discussed, but that's the intention of the Legislation Committee. So again, it was very short. We can actually watch the entire legislation meeting right now, and that's exactly what we'll do.
Before we get started, I just want to thank everyone for being in today's legislation committee.
And Joel Farrelletto, the Delaware council member, he was the legislation committee before last year, and he is the same. So they didn't make any changes. But that's Joel Farrelletto, who is the chair of the legislation committee.
Meeting. We do not have any public hearings today, so I will not remind everyone of the 3-minute rule that we usually do. All of the public hearings that were scheduled for today were moved to 2 weeks from today because the notices went out with the wrong date because the meeting's today instead of yesterday. So we have a very brief meeting, and with that, we will start from the top.
Okay, so the clip cut short, but they really, as you can see, it was kind of comical that they made some sort of clerical errors, so there was no public hearing. So it was a very short meeting. I apologize, my clip ran a little short. But the legislation committee is online. So those were kind of the two more minor council meetings this week. But I really wanted to spend the rest of this segment on the committee meetings talking about some of the more major issues. So the next one was the finance committee. So the finance committee, according to the council rules, they charged to the committee on finance all matters concerning the budget and the issuance of bonds. Council member Nowakowski, as I mentioned earlier, he was essentially promoted from civil service chair to the new finance chair. And the finance committee is so important because obviously money. And as you may or may not know, the city's budget has been running on American Rescue Plan dollars now for a few years, and those expire at the end of the year. And there's really no plan on how the city is going to maintain services moving forward. So the finance committee is going to be vital to that. But really, one of the major discussions in that meeting this week was item 23-1140. So this was a resolution sponsored by Council Member Rashid Wyatt. It was titled The Reallocation of Funds for COVID-19 Relief to the City of Buffalo District Small Businesses. So this was really a major discussion. The city got nearly $300 million from the federal government as part of the American Rescue Plan for COVID dollars. So the city at this point has spent more than half or about half of it just to plug budget holes. So instead of, improving the infrastructure, buying things like fire trucks or, hard physical assets that improve our lives, they've really just been essentially plugging holes in the budget and giving themselves raises. So I'll read a little bit of this resolution. So here we go. So whereas the COVID-19 pandemic has had a profound impact on small businesses across the city of Buffalo, resulting in financial hardships and closures for many entrepreneurs, and whereas the purpose of ARP, American Rescue Plan Fund, for cities is to provide financial relief and support to local governments in response to the COVID-19 pandemic. It aims to address the immediate and long-term impacts of the pandemic by funding a wide range of eligible activities such as public health measures, economic recovery initiatives, essential services, and infrastructure improvements. The funding is intended to help cities recover, rebuild, and strengthen their communities, while also promoting equity and addressing disparities exacerbated by the pandemic. Where is the Bray Miller Market? So you may not be familiar, but a little while ago, the Bray Miller Market, which is a downtown grocery store, had sought a forgivable loan of over $500,000. So there was some fighting between the executive branch and the council to reallocate a portion of these funds to support small businesses in each of Buffalo council districts. So essentially, what happened is the Bray Miller Market requested $500,000 forgivable loan from the ARP funds. The mayor really wanted to push it because we needed a grocery Town Down store, and the council eventually obliged, and the negotiation that they got was they got this money for small business development in each of the council districts. So while it is clear that the Braemiller market suffered financial losses during the pandemic, it is of the utmost urgency that ARP funding be allocated to a wide net of small businesses that experience hardships in order to help stabilize our local economy and meet the criteria to address disparities exacerbated, I'll get that word right eventually, into the pandemic. So essentially, really the negotiations is each council member got an allocation of $62,506 for businesses in each council district. So each council member got $62,000, which sounds like a lot of money, but when you think about all the small businesses in the city, so each district had $62,000 to divide. And again, remember, we got nearly $300 million from the American Rescue Plan, and none of that money has hit the streets. It's just sitting in a bank account collecting interest, and really, essentially, it sounds like a lot, but it's really just peanuts when you think about the larger picture. So, the discussion that was in the council this week was really the finance chair and a member of the Office of Strategic Planning kind of talking about how this program's going. So let's watch some clips from that.
Take from the table item number 17.
I move to remove from the table item number 17.
Seconded by Councilmember Bowman.
Item number 17, reallocation of funds for COVID-19 relief.
This item is open, and we are joined by Commissioner Delano Dow, Lisa Hicks.
And Mr. Chair, if I could, I asked Ms. Hicks about the process because I got some calls from some residents, from businesses who were not eligible to get the funding due to back taxes. And so I think that we had that conversation early on when we had some of the small businesses come in, and some of them talked about, in previous terms when they tried to get grant money, they were hindered because of back taxes. In this particular case, most of them had back taxes because they weren't in business. So how do we overcome that in order for these folks to get this money? I know it's been a delay in getting that funding, but that's the one thing that I did want to ask the question: how do we get around that? Because again, many of these businesses were dramatically impacted back by COVID, and so to say to them, "Oh, we can't give you the money because of back taxes," kind of begs the question. Okay, well, what are we doing?
Lisa Hicks, Director of Development in the Mayor's Office of Strategic Planning. So there's a rule, I guess, in the charter that we're prohibited from granting funds through grant programs to businesses that have outstanding tax liabilities. So what we've been doing is really just kind of implementing that through the letter of the charter and code, just to make sure that there's no issues with being, audited. We do provide support and resources to businesses who have been denied based on their outstanding tax liabilities, understanding that every business is going to be different, and their full financial picture. It's not just their tax liabilities. It's what are you bringing in revenue? What are your other expenses? So, to assist a business is not just to say, okay, let's get your tax liability taken care of so that you can receive the grant. It's kind of looking at the whole picture, the overarching picture of the business and how we can support them. We do have a list of reasons why businesses have been denied, and I think there have only been 4 so far in the process. Where they were denied based on outstanding property tax liability. Many of the businesses that have applied either are current or they're leasing space, so they don't have a tax liability owed to the city at all. So I can run through that, but I just wanted to first address that question, and I don't know if Thomas Buford has anything additional to add from a technical assistance perspective.
Okay. Yeah. Well, to stick to where you are, because we asked for it to be flexible, more flexible, I would think that we would be going around however we could to assist those businesses. And so even though the charter says, okay, they can't, if they have back taxes, I would think that because of COVID, there should be some type of amendment or exemption for them because of the situation. This wasn't something that they foresaw. So that, again, we asked for it to be flexible so that we can get this money to those struggling businesses. And they're going to continue to struggle if they're behind on taxes. So it just, everything that we can do, and I know Thomas, hopefully through their company, because I know that if they can't get the grant, there's an opportunity for a loan. And so hopefully we can assist them in that. But to hear that a business is turned away and we haven't found a creative way to assist them just kind of misses the point of what we were trying to do.
So I don't want to say that we haven't found a creative.
So that's a brief clip from the finance meeting. This link is on my webpage, buffalocomptroller.net/therapy. So if you'd like to keep watching the whole finance committee, there's a longer discussion. But essentially, as you can see, the City Hall is really struggling to get this money out the door. So it's sitting in bank accounts. Each council district has $62,000 to divide amongst all the small businesses in their district, and it's not even clear if a penny or a nickel has gone out the door to help, small businesses. And I think our current economy with, rising everything, rising inflation, rising taxes, user fees, there's just lots of small businesses and people struggling out there. And it's kind of sad that City Hall can't get money out the door. So this will be a big kind of issue in current finance committee, and also, the rest of the American Rescue Plan dollars that haven't been spent that are just sitting in a bank account collecting interest. Those all have yet to hit the streets. I suspect, and probably my theory, and probably the betting money is on that money will just be used again to plug budget holes. So that was the finance meeting. The next kind of big meeting that was on the committee was community development. So the community development, according to the council rules, are charged with all matters relating to work or improvement to be met in whole or in part by revenue from another government unit, including all matters relating to the Buffalo Urban Renewal programs within the city of Buffalo. So Joe Golombek is, again, the community development chair. And this committee really hears a lot of things. If somebody wants to build a tavern in a neighborhood, you'll have a lot of residents get up and so really any sort of community related thing gets discussed here. So the major discussion from this week's community development meeting was item 23-2203, P. Palawai, concerns City of Buffalo water fluoridation. So a citizen wrote a letter to Councilmember Wyatt, who was speaking in that early clip in finance, about the city's fluoridation water. So I'll read that now briefly. So dear Councilman Wyatt, I am grateful I had the chance to speak with you last weekend about our shared concern regarding the continued lack of fluoridation in the city's water. I know that we agree that an essential role of government is the safeguarding of the health and well-being of its citizens. Up until June 2015, Buffalo had filled one aspect of this important role by maintaining a fluoridated water system. However, that was stopped and has yet to be reinstated. I believe there are a number of measures the city should take without further delay. Among them, the expedient restoration of fluoridated water, the dissemination of information to the city families and to the healthcare community through multiple means, in multiple languages, and with frequent updates. The initiation of citywide outreach programs that seek to compensate for the unfluoridated water, especially for the pediatric community. I thank you so much for your good work and your commitment to this issue. And if there's any way I can be of assistance to you in your office, please let me know. Pat Palaway, PNP. I'm not sure what PNP means, but so to kind of bring people up to speed, we all remember Flint, Michigan, and how they had, the poisoning of their water and the lead supply. So a report had came out, I think last year or two, that the city stopped fluoridating the water at some point in 2015, and they didn't tell anyone. It was buried in some technical report, so it was unclear why, how, who took fluoride out of the water. And how this got found was that children in the city of Buffalo, some pediatricians and dentists started to notice that, high levels of children were coming in with cavities. So I think that was kind of what helped bring this to light. But essentially, fluoride, at least fluoride, has helped to show with cavity prevention. So what you had, since the fluoride was taken out of the water, and I'm not pro or anti. I could see both sides of that because fluoride is, a chemical that's used for, I think it's an industrial farming or something. So I'm open to whether fluoride should or should not be in the water. But one thing that I think I strongly believe, and I think we all do, is that we need transparency on this issue. If there's fluoride in the water, we need to know. If there's not fluoride in the water, we also need to know that so people can prepare. So you had children and families who thought fluoride is in the water and then not giving their children fluoride to prevent cavities. So they were under the assumption that there was fluoride in the water because no one ever told them. And then it's been very unclear. The mayor and the Buffalo Water Board and O.J. McFoy have said, "Oh yeah, we're putting it in soon. It's going to be soon." I think they said the end of 2023, and it's still unclear if, when, how. It's not clear if the fluoride will ever be. And it's just sad because we need a community discussion. Our water is one of our most important assets here on the Great Lakes, and this legislative body, and it's unclear, where people stand. So let's watch a brief clip from the Community Development Committee.
Item 10 concerns City of Buffalo water fluoridation.
Motion to open.
Okay, motion to open. We do have some people here to speak on this item. If you could come down to the microphones on either side of the room, please. And if you could please state your name and where you reside for the record.
And Mr. Chair, if I could?
Yeah, Mr. Wyatt.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I want to thank Pat from my district for writing this. She saw me a couple of times while I was cutting my grass and was very diligent in talking about her concerns about fluoride.
And as Councilman Wyatt judiciously mentioned, that sometimes is the first line of defense for some kids who can't either get to the dentist or can't afford a dentist. And when that's taken out of the water, which now at this point I think is less than 1 part per million over the last 8 years, I have sent these councilmen, as well as the Brown administration, many studies. Our association have sent the proven effectiveness at fluoride at the right percentage, which is 7 parts per million. It does the work. There's been countless studies, comparative studies, randomized clinical trial studies, systematic reviews, meta-analysis, the proper studies, what we're talking about, that have been done, that have proven the effectiveness for 75 years. We've had fluoride in here up till 9 years ago. I can't figure it out. Now, we've gone about it to talk to different councilmen. We've met with the deputy mayor. We've met with Commissioner McFoy. We've talked to him about it. Yes, I thought it was supposed to be started in June, where we wouldn't have to be here right now. Or I thought it was going to be started in October, and here we are in January, and it still hasn't been started. How do we justify that to the kids and the people of Buffalo, New York? How do we? And there already is stories of kids having a lot more cavities than before, missing days of school, sick from abscesses. Adults have to call in sick of work because they got to go to the dentist and figure out what's going on with their mouth. This is a pretty easy, straightforward thing. And talk about equity and inclusion. I mean, you get the water, and whether you're on the east side, the west side, the north side, south side, everybody's getting the right amount of fluoride to prevent tooth decay. It's pretty straightforward here. And I can't understand what's going on. And I've been in contact, like I said, I've been in contact with a number of politicians about this, and I can't get anywhere with it. This council needs to do something. You need to approach Mayor Brown, who's a nice guy. I like him a lot. And obviously Commissioner McFoy seems like a nice guy too. But they're making a big mistake. We have to do something about this now and get this started. I don't want to be here next year in January. I got things to do. You guys got other things to worry about. Let's get the fluoride started. I do want to introduce Dr. Amy Cryan, who's a pediatric dentist who sees this up close. I teach at the University of Buffalo. I don't see it as much, but she can tell you about cases that she's seen in her practice. It's evident already what's going on. The studies show 1/3 to 1/2 less decay. Constant studies have been done on this. Thank you for your time and attention on this matter.
Skip ahead a little bit here.
This helps their teeth develop stronger, and when their permanent teeth develop, they have a little more protection from cavities. Adults also benefit from fluoridated water. Studies show a decrease in dental cavities for adults between 20 and 40% just from drinking fluoridated water. As dental care and healthcare providers, we can only help those that come into our offices, but you can help every person in Buffalo. Fluoridated drinking water helps every single child and adult in the community. I would like to impress upon you the importance of getting optimal fluoride back into the tap water of the residents of Buffalo's water. Thank you for your time and your hard work on this matter.
So again, a major issue in Buffalo that doesn't really get much attention, and it should be because we're all affected. We all drink, the city water. So a good person on Twitter said this should be a lead story in every newscast. So a failure of government that fluoride issue exists at all. So again, there's been no transparency on the issue. They took fluoride out of the water without telling anyone, which no matter what side of the fence you sit on, I think we all agree that it needs to be clear. Is there fluoride? Is there not? What's the plan? And yeah, so that's a major issue in our city. I mean, we have major issues in our community about lead poisoning, not just in the water, but also, in old paint and whatnot. And there's lots of environmental issues, and we're so close to, the Great Lakes that our water is an important asset that we need to protect. So those were the committee updates this week. So we've got about 15 minutes left. So for the final segment, I'm going to jump into some of the audit work I've been doing in the city. So let's move on to the next segment, which is Austin audits. So the first thing I wanted to speak briefly about was my termination. So some of you may know me or know my backstory, but I want to make a public comment. It's come to my attention lately that some people think I have some mental health issues. So termination. So on June 20th, 2023, I was terminated by the City of Buffalo's Chief Information Officer. I held a provisional title, Open Data and Analytics Project Coordinator. So I served in this provisional appointment for 18 months, from January 2022 to June 2023. And in this role, my main responsibilities, I was the technical lead for the city's open data portal. So data.buffalonewyork.gov is a website that has, all the city's data on it that anyone can access. And I'll get deeper into the website, and it's up there. So the open data portal is a great resource for, everyone in the city. Another one of my responsibilities was I was the technical lead for the city's $2.2 million analytics contract with the SAS Institute. So as part of the Buffalo police reform agenda, we all remember, the summer of 2020 when George Floyd was murdered, and there was a big wave for police reform in the country. The city of Buffalo they created this Buffalo police reform agenda, and item number 10 in that reform agenda was data transparency. So in item 10, data transparency, it said that the city was positioned to enter into a contract with the SAS Institute, and it positioned the city to become one of the most innovative and transparent police departments in the country. So in this role with the city, I was responsible for really being the technical person that sent data over to the SAS Institute. So the city had, I think it was about 60 plus data sets that we would send to the SAS Institute every evening. It was an automation, and results of the SAS Institute, although it was spoken in finance committee meetings that this information would be public. Almost 4 years later now, and the city is currently in the SAS contract. The results of the SAS Institute have not been made public. So the city had 2,080 consulting hours. So those consulting hours expired in April, and now the city just has use of the platform. So I was terminated. The exact language of my letter, which I have here on my website, Mr. Austin, please let this correspondence serve as notification that your provisional appointment to the title of Open Data and Analytics Project Coordinator with the City of Buffalo Management Information Systems is terminated, effective immediately. Please immediately return all city property to 1201 City Hall. An MIS staff member will contact you to arrange a drop-off of any equipment not present at City Hall. Management Information Systems wishes you well in your future employment endeavors elsewhere. So this was the official statement from the City of Buffalo. I was terminated effective immediately, and in my official letter was given no reason. So something I've been auditing is, my termination, obviously. I was terminated, effective immediately. And so I sent a FOIL with the HR asking about, the city's termination procedures for provisional employees. So this is the result of a FOIL I got. It was from the HR department. So it says, in accordance with Section 65 of New York State Civil Service Law, as well as the City of Buffalo's Classified Rules of Civil Service, Rule Number 16, Section 4, when there is no appropriate list or an existing list contains less than 3 names, the appointing officer may nominate an individual to fill said vacancy. If such nominee meets the minimum qualifications and or requirements of the position, she shall be approved as qualified and may be appointed provisionally to fill such vacancies until a selection appointment can be made after the competitive examination. So the HR statement is provisional appointments may be terminated at any time and are not afforded Section 75 termination proceedings, which are only applicable to permanent employees. So again, the HR, they reference Rule 16.4 of the Buffalo's Classified Civil Service, and then they give a brief description there. So when I looked into Rule 16.4, something they left out, the section on provisional employment, is that the Commissioner of Human Resources shall, for competitive positions within his or her jurisdiction, order a civil service examination for any position held by a provisional appointment for a period of 1 month, and as such shall conduct a civil service examination, or see that such an examination is conducted as soon as practicable thereafter, in order to prevent the provisional appointment from continuing for a period in excess of 9 months. So again, I served in a provisional appointment for 18 months. There was no civil service exam for my title. No exam exists. No exam will ever exist. And this is something that I believe the City Hall is systemically violating. Not only their own civil service rules, but New York State civil service rules. Because provisional appointments, as you saw by HR, they say that they're essentially not given any termination proceedings. They can be fired at will. So City Hall is intentionally keeping people provisionally so that they can fire them at will, which is what I was, fired at will because they could. So they did. So that's a little bit about my termination. I'll probably get into that more at some point. I filed a couple items with the Common Council since I've been terminated. So item 23-1737, I wrote to the Common Council concerns about the SAS agreement, what I believed is deficient delivery of the SAS Institute. So a couple high-level facts is that the city made 4 payments to the SAS Institute from the general fund for Unified Insights training, totaling over $2.2 million. The last payment was made April 10th, 2023, so last year and 2 months before I was fired. So work products from the SAS general consulting hours. The SAS Institute, they developed an at-risk properties dashboard for the Department of Permanent Inspections, DPIS. They developed an inspector workforce dashboard for DPIS, and there also is a use of force dashboard that the SAS Institute developed. So 3 questions I had is, why have the results of the SAS Institute agreement not been made public? When can citizens expect results of the SAS agreement to be made public? And results has the police department seen? So the Common Council received and filed this item, which essentially says we got your item, but we're going to ignore you. I've also filed 2 other items. Item 23-1839, payroll deduction of union dues authorization form. So the city's collective bargaining agreement with local AFS CME 650 union, which is the union that I was put into, the collective bargaining agreement says that the city should deduct dues if with the signing of a payroll deductions of union dues authorization form. So essentially my item was asking for a copy of my authorization form, which doesn't exist. So they couldn't find it. So then I was offered a refund check for my union dues, which I followed up with the Common Council in 23-2125, local 650 refund check for union dues during provisional employment and open data. So I believe that as a policy of the City of Buffalo and Human Resources, the controllers, that they're deducting people's union dues without any sort of authorization form. So essentially they take, on the front end, they take your dues, and then on the back end, when you get terminated, they don't provide you representation because provisionals aren't entitled to Article 75 representation. So the question I asked is how many more terminated provisional employees that were paying dues to 650 also don't have an authorization form, which both these items were just received and filed. And then I was issued a check that bounced from local 650 Not sure why it bounced, but it did. The check was signed by the current president, but the names on the top of the check were Francis Cahill and Michael Drennan, who haven't been in the union for a while. So those are my items. The foils, I have a couple foils that I've filed with the City of Buffalo was a foil for the ARP BHAF dashboard. So back in May, the mayor declared and got funding from New York State for the Buffalo East Housing Assistance Fund. And it was the use of these funds, they were going to give relief to homeowners and provide payments for back sewer, user fee, tax, and water bill arrears. So as the open data coordinator, I developed for the Office of Strategic Planning a Power BI dashboard that automated and pulled in all of the arrear information for all city homeowners. And at the time, I was under the assumption, and I was told that it was going to be used to help people, but I fear that the tool I use is now being used to weaponize and target people that are behind on their taxes. Because to my knowledge, no funds have been paid out. So it's something I kind of feel personally I need to bring light to, and I've requested a copy of that dashboard, but I just recently got a 30-day wait from the Office of Strategic Planning. I also requested copies of the SAS dashboards and copies of the use of force data set. So these were things that the SAS Institute developed, and there is a use of force dashboard with the police department, a SAS dashboard. It looks very similar. It's an exact copy paste of the Ventura County Sheriff's SAS dashboard. I can put a link after the podcast on my website to that, but it's a carbon copy. So I asked for copies of those. I also filed a FOIL looking for the open data compliance report. So according to the city's open data policy, there should be an annual open data compliance report every year. And during my time, my 18 months working for the city's open data portal, I am not aware that any compliance report was developed. I worked there for 18 months and did not publish a single new data set on the open data portal, even though technically I could probably put up 5 a day if I had been given freedom and been empowered to do that. So I was told that the public relations campaign is open for open data portal. So it's part of a kind of restructuring. So another incident I want to bring up and feel like I need to speak because my mental health's been called into question is an open data workshop on December 6th. I was thrown out of it by my former supervisor, who's now the chief innovation officer, Kirk McLean. I was told that my presence made him uncomfortable. And so he essentially made statements to Cornell and PPG, which caused them to ask me to leave the meeting. I left the meeting without incident because I knew implied in that statement, and he had told Cornell and PPG that he would not give the presentation unless I was removed. So implied in that statement, I know, based on my experience at City Hall, is that the police would be called if I didn't leave. So I left without incident because I didn't want the police called. And my gut feeling was confirmed. So I was asked to leave, left without incident. And also, as you know, December 21st, I was listed as a petitioner in a lawsuit against the City of Buffalo. So there's a link to it on my website, but essentially the city violated and the Common Council violated the city charter to give themselves a pay raise. So again, when Scanlon said that the charter is a guiding light, it's kind of comical because they ignore the guiding light when it's convenient and they also follow it when it's convenient. So one example, there's no evidence that a board of review, so the board of review is the mayor, the council president, and the comptroller are supposed to meet and appoint the citizens commission that comes up with a report that recommends pay raises or not. And there's no evidence that meeting ever met. That's just one example, but there's many items of how the city violated the charter, which I can get it deeper into at some point, but it's another thing. This all led up to a Christmas Eve surprise. So this past Christmas Eve, 3 members of the Buffalo Police Department's behavioral health unit showed up at my house to do a mental health evaluation. So I won't speak to my mental health. I'll let you be the judge of whether my mental health is stable or not. But someone, I don't know who, was concerned about my mental health and my escalating behaviors, which can be interpreted several ways. I don't know. I'm still kind of processing it. But 3 members of the Buffalo Police Department showed up at my house. Here's a picture. This was Christmas Eve. I was detailing my parents' car as a Christmas gift and was surprised. The BHE website says they work Monday to Friday, but for some reason they came to my house on a Sunday and investigated. So 3 members of the behavioral health unit showed up to my house, and that's a quick overview of Austin audits. So thank you for tuning in. We're going to close with some good old Woody Guthrie. All you fascists are bound to lose. Our city's, we're facing my experience too is I'm fighting, and I can't fight this by myself, but we're fighting a plague of fascism. I call it fascism, which is kind of a combination of the SAS Institute and fascism. So fascists and fascism is something I'm not cool with, and I think, so Woody Guthrie, he's given me inspiration, so we'll close the end of the show with a song of his, All You Fascists Bound to Lose. Enjoy, and thank you for tuning in.
Put it there, boy, and we'll show these fascists what a couple of hillbillies can do. Well, I'm going to tell you, fascists, you may be surprised. People in this world are getting organized. You're bound to lose. You fascists bound to lose.